to the first meeting of the Black Isle Committee. It's the 8th of August 2022. We have no apologies, so I'm going to move on to item number 2. Members, do you have any items, declarations of interest for any items on the agenda this morning?
No, I've got none.
I have none either.
Okay, I'm moving on
No.
to recess powers. Members, are you happy to note that the recess powers granted by the Council at its meeting on the 30th of June 2022 did not require to be exercised in relation to the Black Isle Committee? Noted?
Yes.
Noted.
Okay, we'll go on to item 4 now, which is the appointment of Chair of the Black Isle Committee. Can I have any nominations, please?
I would nominate Lindsay Johnston.
Okay, have you got a seconder for that, Councillor Aitken?
I'll second it.
Okay. And as members can't nominate more than one person, Councillor Johnson, you are appointed as Chair to the Black Isle Committee. Congratulations.
Thank you. So do I take over from here, or
you take over from here? You start
Okay.
at item 5.
Okay, so now we're looking for nominations for the Vice Chair.
I'll nominate Morven May, Vice Chair.
Chair, sorry.
Can I second that myself then?
Yes, Chair, you can.
Thank you. I will then. Okay, so that's Morven May is then appointed as Vice Chair. Well done, Morven May.
Thank you.
Okay, so it looks like we now move on to the police report. Is that right? Yes. So can we hand over to Richard then?
Morning, thanks. I think I know most of you, but for those that don't, it's Inspector Richard Ross. I'm the area inspector, which covers the Black Isle area. So the report, I believe you all have a copy of the report. I'm sure you've read through it. So my intention is just to highlight certain points in that. So the report is for the reporting period the 1st of April 21 to 31st of March 2022. For those who've been at meetings previously, you'll notice that a change to look and feel of the report, the way they're laid out, and we hope that this makes the information more comprehensible, but still provides a full breakdown of the crime statistics for the area. So in terms of interpreting statistics, that's obviously a key role of ours to identify potential crime trends and to ensure that I've got my officers in the right place at the right time to keep communities safe. We do have to be wary of drawing hasty conclusions from the statistics, and I'm happy to provide any context that's required. Obviously, we're just coming out of a lockdown. The lockdown period, which undoubtedly still has an effect on some statistics, and I'm sure we're yet to feel the full consequences of lockdown and the hidden harm that may have caused to people within our communities. Throughout that period, we've continued to engage with the community. We've remained active across all priority areas of our policing plan. We've maintained a presence on the roads, enforcing traffic legislation, improving road safety, and investigating road traffic collisions. I know that this is often a particular area of concern for area committees, particularly with the notable increase of visitors to the area. And in terms of that, we're continuing to work with the North Highland Visitor Management Group to manage any issues that are arising as part of that. So as a summary, we've seen an increase in antisocial behaviour, disorder and violence, and a reduction in acquisitive crime, However, fraud in particular, online fraud, has remained high. And that's consistent with the change of lifestyle we saw over the sort of pandemic period. Licensed premises closed and people tending to be online a lot more, making purchases online, making them vulnerable to online fraud activities. As we approach winter, we're aware that happens again. People are in more, they're online, and we'll continue to see this as a priority area for action. So there has been an increase in domestic related crime. However, there has been a decrease in relation to sexual crimes over the reporting period, and hate crime levels have remained unchanged. So we continue to build strong partnerships, relationships with the community to protect vulnerable people and support victims and encourage them to engage with us. Obviously, our work in relation to serious and organised crime continues. But as part of the introduction, obviously, we've also introduced new technology this year to a lot of officers. They have mobile devices, which means they're able to do a lot more functions out and about without having to return to the police station. So that's increasing visibility out and about in the community. I'll run over our local policing priorities. So they remain as road safety and road crime, antisocial behaviour, violence and disorder, acquisitive crime, protecting vulnerable people, serious and organised crime, terrorism and public order. You go to the next page in the document, Black Isle at a glance. I'll run over that. So for road safety and road crime, overall road crime offences have increased by 7.2% against the 5-year average, and by 7.3% against the last year to date. Mobile phone offences have decreased again, and also we've had a decrease in failure to insure against third-party risks. In terms of antisocial behaviour, overall antisocial behaviour has increased against the 5-year average and also against the last year to date. We would expect that as more people are out and about, we're likely to get more antisocial behaviour in the community. Offences in relation to common assault have increased against both the 5-year and the last year, and again, people are about more, they're mixing people, socialising more. Serious assaults have decreased, and a good has decreased by 16.7% against the 5-year, although there has been an increase compared to the last year to date, although that equated to one crime, one incident. For acquisitive crime, your crimes of dishonesty, overall, it's reduced by 3.2% against the 5-year average, but has increased against the last year to date. Again, people are in about more, down the likes of shoplifting, etc., will increase as people are on the go more. In terms of housebreaking, and we only sort of report on the dwelling house break-ins, that has decreased significantly by 58.3% against the 5-year average and 71% against the last year to date. So there's a significant drop in that. Unfortunately, in terms of fraud, we have seen an increase of 75.9%. As I said, particularly online frauds have increased. The year-to-date increase is 46%. So it continues to be a trend that we are alive to, and we do a lot of preventative work to try and bring that down. But it is unfortunately a sign of the changing times and technology being the way to commit crime. In terms of protecting vulnerable people, overall sexual crime has increased against the 5-year average, but decreased by 25% against the last year to date. Domestic related offences have increased by 9.5% against the 5-year and by 19% against the year to date. And say hate crime has increased in terms of the 5-year average, but in year to date has remained consistent. For serious and organised crime, in terms of, we report in terms of supply of drug offences, so that has increased by 3.8% against the 5-year average and increased by 22% against the year to date. So that's generally generated by proactivity. And I would have expected an increase as as lockdown eased and we were back to more enforcement activity rather than responding to pandemic issues, that would increase. The next section, counter-terrorism and domestic extremism, we don't report figures, but there is a section in there from our local counter-terrorism officer, which I won't read to you. It's there for reading, but she is available to provide inputs and advice if required. So obviously I'm aware that you've got the statistics broken down in terms of each particular strand. I'm not sure, do you wish me to go through them or do you wish to ask questions about that yourselves?
I'm open to what Sarah and Marvin may think on that one as well.
I'm quite happy to ask a couple of questions.
Yeah, what we would do is I'll highlight a couple of points I wanted to highlight and then go to questions. That's okay. So
yeah,
in terms of road safety, the statistics here show there has been no fatalities. It probably is worth mentioning that obviously you will be aware of an incident at the Munlucky Junction, and I know that's of concern to both councillors. That doesn't show this because the A9 is the border between yourselves and Seaforth, so it'll be reported within the Seaforth. Is actually just within their area, although I know it is of relevance to both areas. In terms of antisocial behaviour, I'll just point out that obviously we are in the process of an 18-month pilot in relation to the harm prevention officer who is based in Inverness, and that's a funded post by the NHS where we divert or we signpost people to support services. So that's an 18-month pilot that is going well, and that links in with the serious and organised crime strategy to divert and deter people from criminality. So that is an 18-month pilot. It's ongoing and is having an effect in our area, and although based in Inverness, has a remit which covers into your area as well. Stop and search, the figures are highlighted there. The number of searches has gone down, but the number of positive searches has remained fairly steady. For serious and organised crime, as I said, I've given you the figures. In terms of county lines, we are aware county lines groups continue to operate in the area, and we have resources dedicated to tackling that issue, and that again provides assistance into my policing area. On that, I'm open to questions.
It might be something for outside this meeting, but the county lines issue I think is really huge. I just say anecdotally, there's so many young people and drugs involved with young people at the moment. Teenagers, and hearing the drugs coming in on boats and coast guards being cut. And, it's kind of easy. It's an easy thing to do. I mean, I would appreciate when you have time, and maybe even at Black Isle Community Council level, some kind of, chat about how you actually do approach this problem of young people being, sucked into it. And I know lockdown was a complete boom, wasn't it? It's across the country. It's not just our community.
Yeah, so county lines is a UK-wide issue.
Yeah,
that's by its very nature. The model of county lines is that.
I know.
People
don't imagine that kind of stuff happens in our community. This is
no,
the. They think we live in an idyllic place where these things don't happen, and it's just not true.
Yeah, we obviously in terms of county lines, we do have issues in terms of county lines. We have units who specifically look to target that criminality. It's not just about enforcement, it's also about so for county lines, or cuckooing is the other issue that goes along with county lines. We obviously look to protect or to reduce the risk of harm to those individuals who are victims of that, whether it be Cuqueen or county lines. And the team don't just look at enforcement, they also look at opportunities to divert and to protect the people from that. And I'm happy to come and speak to you separate to this meeting about that issue if need be.
That would be great. I appreciate you're very busy, but I think it would be helpful for everybody to know this is happening in our community, because I think they just don't realise the extent of drugs and young people.
And obviously we would encourage people, if they have information, to pass that on to us, because that's how we can tackle this, is by getting information and building the picture of what's happening.
Can I ask you a question? Would you say that alcohol-related driving offences are higher in the Black Isle than perhaps other areas of the Highlands, or would you say that they're on par? What's your gut feeling?
Well, in terms of gut feeling, I would go with what the statistics tell us, and they're showing here that over the last 2 years we've had 56 and then 53 drug driving offences. Do I think it's higher in other areas? No, I think it is an issue that continues to need tackled across our area, and we put significant resources, whether it's ourselves or our road policing colleagues, significant resources are put in place to tackle drink driving and drug driving offences. And that's something that we need to continue with the message that it's not socially acceptable and that it will be challenged.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something that in the Black Isle was for so long acceptable socially in the past, and I think you're right, it is about social responsibility, isn't it, there?
Absolutely. And sometimes we can look at the 5-year average, but what we have to bear in mind is that during that 5-year period, police have been given new ways of testing for drug driving, which significantly has increased. So I don't think it's an increase in actual occurrence. I think it's the fact that we've received new powers and new equipment to detect offences.
Oh, thank you. That's actually quite helpful to know. Thank you.
I have something I just wanted to bring up. It's not so much a question, but I saw that there was a police meeting in Och Cafe, and I just thought that was a really wonderful thing to have done, because I know a lot of the community, they don't really know the police, there's kind of lost that connection with the local police, and it was really wonderful to see that they had arranged that and were there talking to the community. I thought that was really, really wonderful, and I'd highly encourage, if it was possible, for that to go on into the future. And also just to say, at the likes of Belgium and the Black Isle Show, there's a fantastic police presence. It was really good. It was really wonderful to see. And there was a huge amount of almost bonding being done between the public who are at these events and the police. It was really creating connections in a positive way. So that was really wonderful to see. And I just wanted to pass that on to say thanks to anyone and all who were involved in that, really.
Thanks. It's good to hear the positive feedback. It's in terms of coffee with a cop, which is the initiative you referred to. I think big part of thanks needs to go to the operator of that premises who approached us and asked to run that. They'd seen it advertised elsewhere, and the intention is to continue to run that event. Probably look at different days, times of the week, etc., as to when we can to maximise the opportunity for people to attend. But yeah, it was good to be able to run, and we hope to continue to run that. I wasn't at Belladrum this year, but I was at the Black Isle Show, and our approach obviously is mainly about control of the traffic, but within the grounds it is about that engagement with the public, and certainly there was plenty children had a seat on the police motorbikes or in the police cars, so we were busy all day with them.
That's brilliant. It's really good.
Oh, Well, thank you very much for that. It was really helpful and informative. And appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, no bother, thanks. Thank you, bye.
Thank you very much.
So I think we
Thanks.
move on now to item number 7, where it's about noting the discretionary budget applications that have been approved since the 1st of April. So is Di, do you keep us right here? Do you?
It's just purely for noting the Cromarty Camera Club Highland Challenge photographic competition received £800. Och Primary School Improving Play and Learning Experiences Primary 1 and 2 received 1,500, and the Highland Historic Trust Church's Heritage Trail received £400. So it's just for noting.
So is that happy and noted by everybody?
Noted.
Okay.
Noted.
So then we move on to number 8, common good funds. So has everybody had a chance to read the reports? Yeah. And
Yes.
this one is for pretty much just noting again, yes?
Noting and scrutiny.
Okay.
If you've read the reports, there's not much more to add.
Okay.
I
Then
might have a couple of questions, Di.
Yeah.
Lindsay, Chair.
Yep.
Just on property costs, just because I didn't quite get it. It says urgent repair works on common good assets, a revenue budget set aside. This includes £519 rental costs of Townsland's Play Park area.
That's
Property.
right.
I don't quite understand that. Is it
it's
who's paying
a-
rent to
it's-
who then? Is it?
We're paying rent to the landowner. Common
Oh,
Good
right.
pays for the rental of the Townlands Park area where the play park is.
So it's
an
common. It's not
annual
common.
rental.
It's not common good. It's common good, but it's. How does that work?
It was done in the long and distant past before I was here with Ross and Cromarty Committee, I believe, and a report went to committee, and the Common Good agreed that it was really important to have a play park there, so they've leased the land.
Oh, right. Who owns it then?
I can't remember his name. He owns most of Cromarty.
Oh, it's a person. It's an individual. It's not a kind of corporation or. Oh, right. Okay.
The estate. The estate.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Right.
The land on the seafront as well, that doesn't belong to the council, it's leased.
Right. It's a bit mean, isn't it? I mean, £500 could buy something nice for them. Never mind. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
okay, so are we all happy and that's noted? Yes. Okay. The moving on to number 9 then, winter service plan for 22-23. So I think this is where we
There's
hand over to Laura. is it?
Rosemarkie and Fortrose. Oh, I thought it was the Fortrose and Rosemarkie Common Good Fund as well.
Oh. Okay, yep. Did you have a question on it, Sarah?
I've got quite a few actually.
Well, okay.
On 4.2 on the income, firstly the income seems kind of, I mean this has happened before, but it does seem quite low relative to the assets that there are. But it says the outturn figure includes an additional premium receivable of 9,672 following the renegotiation of release. Was this the Fortrose Bay lease, Di?
Yes.
How does how does it work for them? Because I remember their deal was slightly different, wasn't it? How does it? They bought a
Each-
lease, didn't they? Bought.
Each
that-
lease is different, and it's negotiated with the property services people. So each lease can be different depending on negotiations.
But they purchased a. They, you know, there was. I remember it happening. There was quite a bit of hoo-ha around it, wasn't there?
They haven't purchased it.
But they purchased a long lease.
That's
So that
right.
it'd be worth knowing, like it's they almost owned it, so they could sell it on. Is that
It's
right?
Because it's common good, there's an extensive consultation process, which is managed through our Common Good Fund officer in Inverness, Sarah Murdoch, and it follows a legal process. So it's not like any other community asset transfer. There's an extra part to it, which is quite intensive. I can copy you into the links where you can see it. And Sarah Murdoch's actually coming to the next ward business meeting to discuss such things in general.
So they pay kind of lump sums on it periodically, do they? That the Portrush Bay, because I understood they purchased like you would purchase the lease of a house. They purchased a lease.
They haven't purchased a lease, but
for that, having been there, because to give themselves security.
Is a premium, so there's a total premium, and they're paying it up annually.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Didn't know. And the anticipated income, is there a breakdown as what's going to come from where? Because it'd be quite good to see how, you know, whether the town halls.
There is a breakdown.
And also how these assets are used.
Yeah, I think at a ward level you've got all that information. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
It's all monitored and in place, and the breakdown is there. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Fab. Is there any other questions on these ones before we move on? No. Fab. Okay. Number 9, winter service plan. Hello, Laura.
Hi there. Good morning, Shade members. Just in case there's any of you that don't know me, my name is Laura McAllister, and I'm the Roads Officer for Wards 8 and 9. And in the absence of Ian Moncrief, Roads Operations Manager for Wilson Cromarty, I've been assigned the task of seeking approval today for the Winter Service Maintenance Plan for Ward 9 Black Isle for 2022-23. Yeah, I'm sure members, you've all had the chance to peruse the winter maintenance policy that has been approved at HQ committee. However, in the unlikely event that members are not familiar with the winter maintenance policy, I'll give a brief overview of the policy and the area winter operations plans and take any questions at the end of the brief. Okay. The winter maintenance policy relates to the Council's responsibility as roads authority for adopted roads, cycleways, footways and footpaths. Under Section 34 of the Roads Scotland Act 1984, a roads authority shall take such steps as they consider reasonable to prevent snow and ice endangering the safe passage of pedestrians and vehicles over public roads. Policy dictates that the authority provides a winter gritting and snow clearing service, which, as far as is reasonably practical, using the resource available, permits the safe movement of vehicles and pedestrians on the adopted road and footway network, and seeks to minimise delays attributable to weather conditions. The Council must conduct these operations having regard to the requirements of the Health and Safety Act at Work 1974 and EU and domestic driver hour regulations. The Council has no responsibility for unadopted roads and will not carry out winter maintenance on the unadopted roads. It will, however, make every effort to aid with emergencies and medical services during severe weather conditions where there is an urgent need for safe access. Trunk Road remains the responsibility of Transport Scotland for both winter and road maintenance. As the winter maintenance policy devolves operational management to the area, it is therefore essential that a common winter maintenance policy is in place to ensure a consistent service for drivers passing between local areas and establishes and lays out the agreed levels of service to be provided. So the area plan, the policy this year remains the same as in previous years, with no changes to the Ross and Cromarty area winter maintenance operations, as discussed briefly at the last ward business meeting. The area plan sets out how we will deliver winter maintenance in the Black Isle. However, members are asked to note that COVID-19 and driver hour regulations will have potential to impact on winter service provision. Okay, so the Black Isle, Ward 9 has 335 kilometres of adopted road network. It's serviced by 2 gritters. And as we cannot treat every section of the adopted road network at the same time, the treatment of roads will be carried out based on the network hierarchy system set out in the winter maintenance policy and is dependent on route priority with target treatment times based on priority. So the priorities are detailed on the plan, and I'll give you a brief of those. So within Ward 9, we have 38 kilometres of primary routes. Now, primary routes are the strategic, regional, sub-regional and link roads which serve the larger communities and permit the majority of road users to travel across the region. Secondary routes are roads connecting smaller communities to the primary network and link service roads with the larger urban settlements, and service bus routes not covered by the primary network. That makes up 54 kilometres of the 335. Others making up 243 kilometres. So the others are minor, rural and local access roads, residential roads and urban settlements. They're treated in priority, with primary being first, secondary following on, and then others. Treatment times. The services Monday to Friday will be provided to the full road network between 6 AM and 9 PM. Treatment time after 6 PM will in general be restricted to the primary routes only. Saturdays and Sundays, a strategic service will be provided at the weekend which covers primary and strategic secondary and difficult other routes between 6 AM and 9 PM. Treatment time again after 6 PM will generally be restricted to the primary routes only. Precautionary treatments, which is the evening treatment, is carried out the previous evening, normally between 5 PM and 9 PM in advance of any forecasted adverse weather, and will in general be restricted to primary routes. So the target treatment times for primary routes Monday to Friday would be 8:30 AM, secondary routes 9 AM, and others would be treated as resources permit. On Saturdays and Sundays, the target treatment times for primaries remains the same at 8:30, secondaries and others being treated as resources and conditions permit. Public holiday treatment times will generally remain the same, with the exception of Christmas Day and New Year's Day, where treatment may be reduced to the primary and secondary network only. But treatment times and target treatment times generally remaining the same. The Council will endeavour to provide the highest level of service possible within the resources available. During winter, especially during severe weather, it may not be possible to always keep every road free from ice and snow. The time taken to complete the treatment of the routes will vary from day to day depending on the actual weather conditions, and can be expected to increase significantly during periods of snow due to having to plough both sides of the road. Therefore, gritting may not be completed on all routes before buses start their journeys. Footways. The treatment for ice and light snow conditions on adopted footways, footpaths and cycleways will be carried out as set below in the policy. Each gritting route will take a significant length of time to complete. The length of time taken will vary from day to day depending on the actual weather conditions. Footpaths are also prioritised in the hierarchy, with the priorities again being set out as primary, secondary and other, with primary being the main urban shopping centres and primary cycleways, secondary routes covering main urban areas, schools, hospitals and minor shopping areas, sheltered housing and locations of special needs with known identified hazards. Others are other footways as resources allow. Treatment times, Monday to Friday, the service will be provided between 6 AM and 6 PM, and footways will be treated on a priority basis as resource permits. Saturdays and Sundays and public holidays, the service will be provided between 6 AM and noon on primary and strategic secondary footways as resources permit. There will be no service for footways on Christmas Day or New Year's Day. There is no evening pre-treatment of footpaths either. Okay, Ross and Cromarty covers 5 wards and currently delivers 27 morning winter maintenance gritting routes, 11 footpath winter maintenance routes, and 13 evening winter maintenance pre-treatment routes, and 18 weekend winter maintenance routes. Historically, this was covered by one duty officer for the whole of the Ross and Cromarty area on a rota basis. In 2018, it was decided that due to the vast area covered and the significant number of gritting routes for one duty officer to manage, it would be split into 2 groups, East and West. So the East group covers wards 6, 7, 8 and 9 and delivers 11 morning routes, 7 footway winter maintenance routes, 5 evening winter maintenance pre-treatment routes and 7 weekend winter maintenance morning routes. Now that's all covered under one duty officer, Ward 9 falling now into the East group, with the remaining routes in Ward 5 being covered by another duty officer. Each group is independent of one another but can assist in the event that it's required. So as part of the winter maintenance policy, the Council sources winter weather forecasting services from recognised meteorological service providers during the period 14th of October 2022 to the 14th of April 2023. The Council's winter road maintenance service provider for 2022-23 is the Met Desk. All duty officers receive full training to ensure they're suitably qualified, and it's an experienced member of staff that would be the duty officer. The Met Desk applies 3 forecasts within a 24-hour period, one at 5 AM, one at 12 noon, and one at approximately 5 PM daily throughout the aforementioned period. The live sensor information is available 24 hours per day, 365 days per year. At noon each day, the winter maintenance duty officer receives the noon winter route-based forecast from the Met Desk and uses this forecast to decide on the winter action plan for that evening and the following morning. The information in the forecast, alongside the information gathered from the live route-based sensor information provided by Vasala and Finlay Urban, allow a decision to be made on what routes are to be treated and the prescribed treatment rate and whether blades are required, etc. So for winter treatment, once we've had that forecast, we would decide as duty officers whether it was a 10 gram per square metre, 20 gram per square metre or 40 gram per square metre. So 10 grams would we be using in the event of frost, 20 grams for ice, 40 grams for heavy snow, but it may be split into multiple runs. It's worth noting that salt only begins to work when it's trafficked. So you may receive, as we do, complaints that roads have not been treated or not enough salt has been put down, especially in some of the rural areas, but it does require traffic to break it up. The live sensor information allows the duty officer to determine existing salt levels recorded on the sections of road surface temperatures and moisture levels. This, alongside the route treatment reports taken from the winter maintenance driver, where we have live contact with the driver en route, allows the duty officer to make an informed decision on the extent of the treatment required. Once the winter treatment plan has been decided and posted on the Met Desk, the action plan is then circulated by email to all personnel involved in winter maintenance actions. The roads officers and foremen then organise the drivers and gritters to conduct operations having regard to the requirements of the Health and Safety Act at Work 1974 and the EU and domestic driver hour regulations. The duty officer will continue to monitor the forecast, temperatures and sensor information and book the winter maintenance drivers in and out of the routes being covered by the action plan in both the morning and the evening, taking periodic winter road condition reports from the drivers and checking the evening updated forecast supplied by the Met Desk to ensure the updated forecast is covered by the action plans prescribed at the noon forecast. Continually monitoring allows for any change in weather to be addressed and actions to be changed to meet the conditions. The morning winter condition reports are then uploaded on the Finlay Irvine Ice Alert whiteboard by each winter maintenance officer pan Highland, which must be recorded daily before 8:30 AM. This allows any winter road condition issues to be communicated via social media by the corporate comms team. There are no winter evening condition reports recorded in Finlay Irvine, it's just the morning condition reports. And it's worth noting that in the morning, if temperatures rise quicker than forecast for the roads and footpaths, the duty officer will recall the winter gritters to the depots. So you sometimes will get some complaints from people saying they've not been round this road today in some of the others, but it's because temperatures have increased sufficiently that we can recall them. So the Black Isle is serviced from the Greenhill Salt Depot by Tor. I don't know if you're familiar with it. And that's where our gritters for Ward 9 are launched from. So I hope this gives you a concise summary of the winter operations and ask that members approve the winter plan for Black Isle. And I'm happy to take any questions if there's anything I've not covered. Obviously, I didn't want to read from the policy because it's quite long. I think what I've had to say is long enough, but I hope it's given you an idea of how we cover it in line with the policy.
And presumably in line with your budget, Laura, as well. Can I just ask the question of COVID 2.2 and mentioned again later? That would be because, I mean, people think we were out of the pandemic, but it's presumably still will impact on staff absences and not being able to come to work if you test positive.
That's correct. They wouldn't be. We were trying to keep them away from
our regulations.
Driver hour regulations. Sorry, the impact. Yes, it does. Obviously, if we have a member of staff that comes down with COVID, we would be looking to separate them from the other staff and keeping them at home. So due to the resources that we've got, mentioned about budgets and resource, we've got rotated, people on rotas to cover the routes. Obviously, any absence has potential to impact on the driver's hours. So the working time directive allows them to operate up to 60 hours. So we would have to have cover. We would potentially we do have contingencies plans in place to cover any of these absences due to COVID or any other sickness.
It mentions driver hour regulations have changed. So is that as well? I mean, is it because they're working? They work less because it's safer, or more because?
Yeah, well, what we're working towards, we've got EU hours and domestic hours, which we could go over in a separate meeting because it's quite detailed and long-winded. What we're working towards is the working time directive, so no more than 60 hours in the week's period.
Thank you.
I had a question. are you finished your question, Sarah? 'Cause I don't want to jump in over the top of you. No. Okay.
Yeah, great.
How long does it take to actually grit and salt the black isle? So assuming you do a normal Monday to Friday day, and you're starting with like maybe a morning session. Is it like the analogy of the Forth Road Bridge? Is it never quite finished, or is it one of these things that has a definite start and finish point in the day for your workers?
It's all very dependent on the weather conditions. So in a light frost, the operatives will start at 6 o'clock en route and could be back in depot. Obviously, we talked about the priority times. They could be back in, if it was just a primary network treatment, they would be back in depot by 7 o'clock. If they were to treat all of it in a frost condition, potentially they would be back in depot by 10, 11 o'clock. Again, it all depends on the weather. So in ice, they could be out all day. Snow, they're generally out all day treating the routes because it's continually back and forth. Does that answer? Or?
Yes, it does. No, it's just because obviously part of what came to mind when you were talking about COVID and driver's hours was, if you never get that point to stop and come in and and have breaks and whatnot, and then you're back out at more winter maintenance. That was just what was going through my head. The other question I had was about salt and procurement. Is that something that has to happen quite far in advance for the winter maintenance to go ahead?
It is. The fleet team take care of that. Linda Monroe's team, she's in charge of that. So yes, they arrange the procurement of the salt, and the roads officers then ensure that they're liaising with Linda about haulage into the depot. And Greenhill will take stocks of up to 5,000 tonne of salt. So that's something, yes, at the onset of winter before October, we're looking at hauling in that salt to make sure our salt stock levels are sufficient.
You've already got it on site, essentially.
We have it on site, and that's replenished depending on the kind of winter we have throughout the period October to April. And I know there's stocks held in Inverness.
Dana.
Point 14, the community self-help section. And I mean, it's great if you're providing bins, scrapers, reflective waistcoats, etc. Is it our job to make sure that our community, because some community councils or communities are absolutely amazing at winter resilience programs in their own communities, making sure the elderly, I mean, this year is going to be horrendous, isn't it? People being cold and hungry. Is this monitored at all or audited, how well the communities respond to what the council offers, or is it up to us as councillors to get to our community councils and encourage or make sure that all this is being done? How does?
Well, it's been promoted. It's actually our service support team that take care of promoting that. Anyone that wants to sign up to it, it's then the road services and the roads officers team's responsibility to make sure that the equipment and material is supplied to the communities. What I will say is that the Black Isle has had a good uptake. It's one of the best uptakes we've seen in Ross and Cromarty, where they are willing to go out and they've signed up for the community resilience plan, and keeping in touch with us as roads officers. Really what's supposed to happen is that they're supposed to come back in annually and reapply to say that it's, that they want to continue with the service that they're providing. What we generally do is we'll go out to them before October and say, do you want to continue, or we'll remove them from the list and make sure that they've got the equipment, and those people that are the contacts, the responsible contacts, all the information is up to date. But yes, in Black Isle has been the best uptake throughout Ross and Cromarty. we hope that that continues this year.
Great. Brilliant.
But again, it is promoted.
Yeah.
It certainly could possibly do with some more promotion. But like I say, that's the service support team that would be responsible for promoting that. We just action the material and equipment when the agreement comes into us.
So do we have any further questions for Laura? No.
Sarah's already asked all the questions I had earmarked, so.
In that case, are we happy to then? In that case, are we happy then to approve the winter service plan?
Yes.
I am. Yes.
Yes.
And we've noted that the COVID-19 drivers' hours regulations could have an impact on the service provided. So, and that's noted, yes.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you for
very
your time,
much.
Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
So, and then the last item there is number 10 minutes, but obviously we can't really approve. Well, it looks like they are approved, aren't they? But we can't really comment on minutes of a meeting we weren't present at, really. I don't suppose. What would you say about that, Di?
I would note them.
Yes, just noted, yeah. And then, well, I suppose that's it then, because there's no any other business, unless this is the place to discuss the idea that we circulated before, Di.
What was that? It's probably one for your business meeting,
Okay,
I would
Okay.
think.
just to have it discussed at the right place and the right whatever. Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody, for your time. And I suppose that wraps things up, really, doesn't it?